Hello everyone, welcome to a video about the 1938 solo that Django played on the standard Night and Day. It's a killer solo with killer licks. Let's go! A couple of weeks ago I made a video about the 1947 solo that Django recorded in Rome. And that video went viral for some reason, I'm not completely sure why, but I figured let's make another one about the same tune. Same guitar player, Django, but take another solo. Recorded 10 years earlier, but as you will see, many of the concepts, the harmonic concepts and what Django was thinking is similar to that other solo. Now when I say Django was thinking about a certain chord or a certain scale or arpeggio, I'm not saying that Django was thinking about the names that we use, like G minor or G minor melodic. Django wasn't thinking of those names. Many people commented that Django didn't know anything about theory or note names or scales, and of course I'm aware of that. But don't mistake that for the fact that Django wasn't aware of what he was doing. Of course he knew the guitar like no one else did before him, and when he saw these chords or heard them, he might have not known the names, but he did realize, okay, if I play this kind of sound over those chords, it would sound great. So he wasn't using those names, but he did use the concepts. I'm just using the names for communication purposes, to make it easier to talk about music. So please don't think that Django was just hitting the right notes by accident. He wasn't. He was keenly aware of all the harmonic concepts that he was using, just without the names. Let's get started with phrase number 1. I'm not going to go over all the concepts again, because I went over them in depth in the previous video. I would just refer to that previous video, so if you want to know more of the theoretical background, watch that video, there's a link in the description. But in this first phrase, again, we see Django employing the concepts of not playing over each separate chord of the 2-5-1 to D, the 2-5-1 starting with a half diminished chord. But instead he's just thinking of 2 bars of G minor, could be G minor 6 or G minor 7, doesn't really matter, and then resolving that to D. So instead of thinking E half diminished 1 bar, A7 1 bar, D 2 bars, he's thinking G minor for 2 bars and then resolving that to D. That's what's happening in this first phrase. That's a G minor 6 arpeggio with embellishments. Then staying on G minor, that's G minor 7, and then resolving to D major. Beautiful phrase that works both on a 2-5-1 like this, with the half diminished chord as the 2 chord, but would also work on a regular 2-5-1, but then maybe start a little bit later in the bar. So you would shift everything backwards. For instance, let's say it's a 2-5-1 to C, a regular 2-5-1. So with D minor, then we would play something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Something like that, for example. Let's go to the next phrase. That first lick is still part of the previous 2-5-1, and it's a major pentatonic scale, a D major pentatonic scale, but played as triplets, 3, 4. Then he wants to slide from that high F sharp to a B flat as the first note on the next 2-5-1, and he does that with a chromatic trick, where you play tremolo with the right hand and you time your left hand sliding to play the intended target notes on a beat. In this case, it's beat 2 of the next bar. So Django is probably using with one finger. I do it a little bit differently. I play the first note a couple of times, maybe 2, maybe 3. Then I play F, E, and then I slide with my first finger. So it doesn't really matter if you hit double notes or skip a note. It's more about the effect of this chromatic run. If you would slow it down, even the original recording, you will hear that it's not exactly every note. It just sounds like that in tempo. Just try to figure out how fast you have to move your left hand to land on the B flat on the beat. The rest of the lick is, again, it's just G minor. That's G minor 7. And then it's a resolution to D. 3, 4. Beautiful phrase again. Let's go to the next one. In the previous video I discussed that in this part with the descending chords, an easy way to think about it is just to play E7 for 1 bar, A7 altered for 1 bar, and then D major for 1 bar, and then play D flat 7 altered. Now you might say, Christian, those chords are completely different from the real chords, which is G sharp half diminished, to G minor 7, to F sharp minor 7, to F diminished. And yes, those chords are completely different, but they are just substitutions for E7, A7 altered, D flat 7 altered. I'm not gonna explain it again. I explained it at length in the previous video, but Django is thinking of those chords, just like he did in the previous solo. That is something that he would play on E7. Right? So that's that sound. Then he just shifts that down. So a logical way to think about it would be, oh, E flat 7. Right, just shift E7 down to E flat 7. And E flat 7 is a tritone substitute for A7. An easy way to play A7 altered is to just play E flat 7. So that's what's happening here. And then it's an F sharp minor 7 arpeggio, but that is something that you would play on D. So again, E7, E flat 7, or A7 altered, and then F sharp minor 7, which is D major 7, 9. And then he plays on that diminished chord, which I just said you could think D flat 7 altered, and that's what he's doing. He's playing a D flat triad, and then 2 altered notes of D flat 7. Pretty easy if you think about it, but of course this line is great. You still have to come up with great lines, but here you have a great example. Let's go to the next phrase. And here we have arrived at a normal 2-5-1 to D, finally, E minor 7, A7, D. And per usual, we get a very classy Django 2-5-1 lick. And you could say, well, that's just basically 2 bars of G or G6. And then it's a full G major triad. And a resolution with a bend. I'm bending to the 5th on the 1 chord, so we're in the key of D. So bending to an A from a G sharp. That's a typical Django lick. Like that, right? So that's a great 2-5-1 lick, which you definitely should add to your bag of licks. Let's go to the next phrase. Here Django is just playing the theme with bends. That's just a theme, but the bends of course make it very special. So I'm bending up to an A, then I'm bending back to land on the G, bend again to the A, and now a quarter triplet. You can play with one finger if you want, or you could play it 3-2-1, and then I'm bending to the F sharp, and then we go to the next phrase. And here's another 2-5-1 to D with a half diminished chord as a 2 chord. And Django is thinking 2 bars of G minor like he usually does. That's a G minor arpeggio. And resolving to the major third of D. Just like the first 2-5-1, he was also resolving to the major third. That's F sharp. And here the same thing. That's a strong note to resolve on, especially when you want to make the difference between minor and major very clear, right? Before he's thinking of 2 bars of a minor chord and resolving to a major chord, landing on that third is a beautiful effect. Let's go to the next phrase. This is the descending part again with G sharp half diminished, G minor, F sharp minor. And saying it again, we can think E7, A7 altered, D, D flat 7 altered. If you are still confused about this, please watch the previous video. I explain completely how this works. So Django is doing that. That's a third of E7. And then that's a lick for A7 altered. We hear this flat 9 sound, resolving to D major on top of the F sharp minor 7. Now I wrote straight in the tab. That means that you should play these 8 notes straight. And that's a nice effect because of the quarter triplet before. 3, 4. Gives it a little bit of a laid back feel. And then the next phrase, play swing 8 notes. That's a lick for F diminished, but you could also play that on D flat 7 altered. So again, E7, A7 altered to D, and then D flat 7 altered. Let's go to the final phrase of this video. A 2-5-1 lick, starting with the E minor 6 arpeggio and closer to the E first. Now minor 6 arpeggio with the C sharp here, and then a bend to the 9 of A7 to the flat 9 back, and then resolving up to the 6 of D. That's a beautiful resolution, I think. That bend to the 9, back to the flat 9, and then up to the 6 of D. Lots of great color notes in this 2-5-1 to make it sound extra sweet. Again, it's another great 2-5-1 lick which you really should add to your bag of tricks. Just play it in different keys. Let's say we want to play it in the key of A. It's easy to find because you basically start on the root of the 2 chord, right? Key of A starts with a B minor 7, so starting on the B. You could even play this phrase before, even though there might not be a diminished chord in the song, if you just start one bar before the 2/5/1, this just resolves very nicely to the 2/5/1 lick. Let's play it in the key of C. You could play that on All of Me, right? All of Me goes E7, 1 point, A minor, and then we have D7 2 bars, G7. And the second bar of D7, you just play. So let's try it. D7. Second bar. Fits great there. Would probably fit in every song. And if the first phrase doesn't fit, you could just start on the 2/5/1. That was it for this video, and now you might be thinking, wait a minute, there is a bridge, you played a bridge in the beginning of the video. And that's correct, and I will make another video especially for my patrons over at Patreon with the rest of the solo. So if you want to see that exclusive video, you can join there at the €10 tier, and in a couple of days I'll make a video with the licks that are left. Or if you join at the €5 tier, you can download the tabs that you saw on screen today. And of course, you will get access to lots of other tabs, just like you would get access to a lot of other exclusive videos at the €10 tier. If you like this video, please give it a like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all the good stuff that really helps my channel grow. And hopefully I will see you all in the next video. Bye.